Well, we're back here at the excuse me, the Hall of History, and doing our look at the Roaring Twenties, which was a time of great social upheaval in the United States. Uh, the We talked about the urbanization of America, how the large cities were influencing uh, well the way Americans thought, how music became influential. Movies also at this time also became influential. Well, here we're going to take a look at nativism, and we're going to look at why it resurged during the 20s. Well, why did it? One was after World War One, the fear of communism. If you remember back from World War One, Russia went from a czarist society into a communist society. The right near the end of World War One, Lenin. We took a brief look at Dr. Zhivago, and it was during this time period also. So there was this fear of communism and also of Germans that led pretty much everybody in the United States. All immigrant groups were not highly looked upon, especially the Eastern Europeans. When you talk about the Eastern Europeans, again, you're looking at those areas, Hungary, get into the eastern part, actually the western part of Russia, and they did not, really want those people here. It's called the Red Scare, the Russian Revolution. People saw communism as a good thing. The Workers' Party, people were not. A lot of people were not entirely enthralled with capitalism in the United States, and so what you found that 70,000 Americans joined the Communist Party, and this fear really started overtaking the government and in the public. And you can see the immigration from 1900 to 1999, and you can see if we're looking it really peaked about 1910 before the war, and then it slowly decreased after that. If you look at immigration here, you'll find a lot of these are coming from Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. But you're looking in this time frame. Would be after World War II, and then you're looking after the Vietnam War. But we'll take a look at those a little bit later. Some other things that were going on here is the Palmer raids. Government agents were hunting down suspected communists, and there was really no Miranda rights were given. There were no American Civil Liberties Union. These people were held and without any type of warrants, and many of these individuals were deported back to their countries. And another problem going on at this time, the purely large number of immigrants entering the country. You got to remember, after the war, Europe was pretty much decimated, especially economically, and people were looking for a new start. And a lot of Native Americans were wondering how this impact would be impacting the United States. Also, at this time, you started getting into a little bit later on a recession. And as we talked about before, the larger the labor pool, wages will go down, and the harder it is to find a job. And so a lot of Native Americans thought these immigrants were a threat, that they would take jobs away from them. And so they did not want the immigrants to come over. An interesting case here was the Sacco Vanzetti case, and you can read this for yourself here. The evidence against these two individuals was pretty flimsy at best, and seeing they were Italian and they were immigrants and they were anarchists, and go ahead, you can take the time to look up an anarchist and put it into your notes. They were found guilty and they were sentenced to death. And as I mentioned, you might think of it as a railroad job here. It was not a very well-run trial, and they wanted some scapegoats for this, and they found their two men here. It's interesting. This plaque in its the two gentlemen in question there, and they talked about hopefully that their suffering and death will not have been in vain. And a lesson learned, we'll look at it later on as we go through our look at American history. There's scales of justice, definitely was tipped against them. Also at this time you had the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, and there's some pictures of it here. At one time, well, we'll take a look at that in a second here, with the KKK with their white robes and their white hoods. The Ku Klux Klan was really in the 1860s. It was born and flourished in the South, and they were trying to use threats to the newly freed African Americans at the time. Interesting to note, as you got into the 20s, it was the Catholic and the Jews and the immigrants. And again, the Catholics were thought to be anti-government. They were papists. They would obey the Catholic Pope rather than the American government. Interesting little sidelight here. Hopefully we'll talk about this in class a little bit. My mother was born in 1930, and she was born and grew up in Dothan, Alabama, which was right along the Georgia border, about halfway down the state of Alabama. And when she was in her early 20s, probably early teens, about the same age as you guys are, she would go out at night, her and a couple of her friends, and they would go up on a hill and watch these KKK activities. Interesting to know, as this reached in the mid-20s, membership reached about 4 million and spread into the South, from the South and into the North. And there were, again, it was this anti-immigrant fever that was sweeping the country, and this whole idea of anti-communism. The Klan was not thought of as it is today. It was tolerated, and it really promoted itself as a pro-American organization. I think we'll try to do later on is do a little activity researching the Klan. Interesting subculture of American society, if you will, and they definitely had an impact on American society from here, probably up into the 70s and the 80s, and hopefully we'll take a look at those a little bit later. So that's our look at this.